The Harlem Renaissance, Art, Culture, and Identity. The Harlem Renaissance stands as a pivotal period in American history, marked by an explosion of creativity, cultural expression, and intellectual ferment among African American artists, writers, musicians, and thinkers. Emerging in the vibrant neighborhood of Harlem in the 1920s, the Harlem Renaissance reshaped the landscape of American art, literature, and culture, while challenging prevailing notions of race, identity, and social justice. This video explores the origins, key figures, and enduring legacy of the Harlem Renaissance as a beacon of African American pride, resilience, and artistic innovation. The Harlem Renaissance emerged against the backdrop of profound social and cultural transformations in post-World War I America. The Great Migration brought millions of African Americans from the rural South to urban centers in the North, seeking economic opportunities and refuge from racial oppression and violence. Harlem, with its vibrant community and rich cultural heritage, became a focal point for African American migration and creativity. The Harlem Renaissance was fueled by a desire to assert African American identity, reclaim cultural heritage, and challenge racial stereotypes and discrimination. It represented a cultural awakening and a celebration of African American history, literature, music, and art. The Harlem Renaissance witnessed an unprecedented flourishing of artistic and literary expression, with African American artists, writers, musicians, and intellectuals making significant contributions to American culture and society. Figures such as Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, Claude McKay, and Jean Toomer captured the essence of African American life and experience through their poetry, novels, and essays. Literature played a central role in the Harlem Renaissance, with the publication of seminal works such as Hughes' The Weary Blues, Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, and McKay's Home to Harlem. These works explored themes of identity, belonging, and racial pride, while challenging prevailing stereotypes and narratives about African American life. Visual arts also flourished during the Harlem Renaissance, with artists such as Aaron Douglas, Romare Bearden, and Jacob Lawrence pioneering new forms of expression and representation. Their vibrant paintings, murals, and illustrations celebrated African American culture, history, and resilience, while challenging prevailing notions of beauty and aesthetics. The Harlem Renaissance was also a golden age of African American music, with jazz emerging as the defining sound of the era. Jazz clubs such as the Cotton Club and the Savoy Ballroom became cultural epicenters, showcasing the talents of legendary musicians such as Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and Bessie Smith. Jazz music embodied the spirit of improvisation, experimentation, and cultural fusion, reflecting the diverse influences and experiences of African American life in Harlem and beyond. It served as a soundtrack for social change, rebellion, and liberation, while transcending racial and cultural boundaries to captivate audiences worldwide. The Harlem Renaissance left a profound and enduring legacy that continues to resonate in American art, literature, music, and culture. It challenged prevailing notions of race, identity, and representation, while affirming the dignity, creativity, and resilience of the African American experience. The Harlem Renaissance inspired subsequent generations of artists, writers, musicians, and activists to continue the struggle for social justice and cultural empowerment. Its legacy can be seen in the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, as well as in contemporary movements for racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. What was the Harlem Renaissance? The Harlem Renaissance was a cultural, artistic, and intellectual movement that flourished in Harlem, New York, during the 1920s and 1930s. It was a period of profound creativity and innovation among African American artists, writers, musicians, and thinkers. What were the main goals of the Harlem Renaissance? The Harlem Renaissance aimed to celebrate African American culture, reclaim cultural heritage, challenge racial stereotypes, and promote racial pride and identity. It sought to create a space for African American artistic expression and to challenge prevailing notions of race and identity in American society. Who were some key figures of the Harlem Renaissance? Key figures of the Harlem Renaissance include writers such as Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Claude McKay, visual artists like Aaron Douglas, Romare Bearden, and Jacob Lawrence, and musicians such as Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and Bessie Smith. What were some notable achievements of the Harlem Renaissance? The Harlem Renaissance produced a wealth of literary works, including novels, poetry, and essays, that explored themes of African American identity, culture, and experience. It also saw significant advancements in visual arts, with artists creating vibrant paintings, murals, and illustrations that celebrated African American heritage. Additionally, jazz music emerged as a defining sound of the era, captivating audiences worldwide. What is the legacy of the Harlem Renaissance? The Harlem Renaissance left a lasting legacy of cultural pride, artistic innovation, and social change. It inspired subsequent generations of artists, writers, musicians, and activists to continue the struggle for racial equality and social justice. The movement's impact can be seen in the civil rights movement and in contemporary efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity in American society. Like the video and remember to subscribe to our channel.